So here's what my plan is. So just some information about grief and causes and grief theories and images, a little bit about kids and grief and death, and then a little bit about hospice music therapy. So grief is common and complex. As Pastor Yolanda said, we all experience grief, but grief is not just for death. It's change in our lives. It's disappointments, it's trauma, losses that are many in our lives as we go through lives, and we encounter losses as when we're young, and so kids experience grief too. So realizing sadness is also a component that kids might be grieving something. So other examples of grief emotions, anybody shout them out?
Loss of jobs.
Loss of jobs. So situations that bring grief. Divorce.
Children going off to college.
Children going off to college. Boy, that was a big one for me.
Change of season.
Change of season.
Having to move for your work or something.
Moving for work. And what kinds of emotions do you think of when you think of grief? Anybody?
Sadness.
Sadness. Yes.
Loss.
Loss.
Frustration.
Frustration. Yep. Denial.
Guilt.
Guilt.
Anger.
Fear.
Anger.
What's to
Fear.
come? Helplessness.
Helplessness.
Heartache.
Heartache.
Anger.
Anger.
Depression.
Depression. Anybody say loneliness? I got a book up here that has a long list. So, and it's individual. And there's no timeline to grief. There's no correct way to experience grief. And so that's where some of the myths come in, and people think you should move on. But really, it's an individual experience. Oh, song.
We need a backup.
This is a chant written by a music therapist called Susan Gardstrom. So I'll sing it a couple times if you want to join in. Feel free. Light glare. So life gives us hardship and experiences that we have no control over. And that's where these images, these metaphors come from. But we can be there together. We cannot stop the wind from howling, and we cannot stop thunder. We cannot stop the rain from falling, but we can build a roof to stand under. Shelter me, I'll shelter you, so even when it's storming, we'll make it through. We cannot stop the rain from howling, and we cannot stop thunder. We cannot stop the rain from falling, but we can build a roof to stand under. Shelter me, I'll shelter you, so even when it's stormy, we'll make it through. Thank you for joining in. And thank you. Pastor Yolanda this morning said, we were praying for you, Tasha and I. And I said, oh, I must have felt it, because up until this morning, that was not in the presentation. Because I really debated. I'm like, should I put some music in? And then I thought, oh, it's just so much, it's a little extra effort. So thank you for your prayers. All right, so we're going to get into little theories about grief. There's different kinds of grief. And this is what I started to understand when I started to work in hospice. Anticipatory grief. So that sadness that comes before something happens. Before the kids move away from college, the girls' senior year in high school, I was just like a mess at everything. This was the last. And moving them out of the house. And, something's coming. And so we start grieving. And death is coming. And whether we know it's coming, but it's coming, it's a part of reality as we age, or there's a diagnosis, or somebody's in hospice, or they have a chronic condition. So we know that things change, and we start to grieve those. Ambiguous grief. Is anyone familiar with Ambiguous Loss, the book?
Yes.
Bruce is, of course. It's at the library, so you can check it out from there. It's by Pauline Boss. So this is grief that is about uncertainty, illness, trauma, addictions, divorce, somebody's in the military, prison, immigration. So it's that you're not really sure what you're grieving, but you're grieving something. And you might be angry about it, or frustrated, or feel isolated because nobody else is having these feelings that you are. Non-finite grief. So when life doesn't happen the way we want it to happen. There's a lot of this. Our nephew Lucas didn't make the St. Olaf choir for next year, and he's having a lot of grief and disappointment about that. That was his dream, and that's probably going to live with him a long time. You don't get the job you thought you were going to get, or you get laid off from the job, or infertility, lots of things that stay with us. Cumulative grief, multiple losses, lots of things going on, whether they're in your own life or they're in society. So I said to my supervisor that there's been a lot of changes at work lately. I said, I think we've gone through so much with COVID and changes in our staffing and changes in how we do things and how they're changing. It's like every other month they change how we're doing something and people are just tired. It's those cumulative things. And I was just at a presentation about trauma, and I think we as a society, as a city, went through trauma this January with Metro Surge, or some of us experienced that as trauma in our community. And there is, we bond together at first, and then we take a little dip, and then there's, movement that happens, or like the shooting at Annunciation, t-shirts and yard signs, and there's this big flower display, and then there's this big downward part of the hill. And I said, I think we're in this downward part of the hill. That's why people can't take change. But so it's just lots of things going on for people, lots of stress. Absent or delayed grief, so lots of grief can have shock with it if there's an accident or a sudden death, a shooting, just, there's just too much going on, and so you're not grieving right away. Prolonged grief, that's something probably want to think about some kind of support for, whether it's a support group or education or a therapist. And disenfranchised grief, so grief not recognized by society. And I think society's better now than it used to be. I think there used to be more of a move on, we just have to be tough and we have to move on and we go forward, and so then the grief doesn't get its opportunity to exist because it's just denied. Any questions or comments about that?
Can I say that?
Yeah.
When I think about disenfranchised grief, I think about things like having a miscarriage.
Having a miscarriage?
Yeah, no one recognized the pain of that because they never even knew I was pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
And so I was grieving, but no one even knew.
Yeah, things people don't know that you're grieving. infertility can be that way,
Yes.
miscarriages.
But,
It's complicated, yes, Rick.
I would say too, with disenfranchised grief, that maybe you have a mental condition or emotional condition that makes social interaction difficult.
Yes.
That is a sort of grief you carry with you, you know.
That's a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, if social interaction because of mental illness or depression or anxiety, social
Neurospicy.
skills aren't developed yet, like for youth. So, yeah.
Well, like being on the spectrum or something,
Mhm.
you know.
Or sometimes I think about, sometimes when I've met people in my work, I learned that a parent died when they were 2.
Oh,
And so like, they don't think that child grieved or is grieving, but definitely that child is grieving, but they don't have the words for it. And so, it's this grief that kind of is stuck there. It feels like sometimes when their parent comes into hospice. So.
Yes. That's a good one.
All right, so learning about grief can be good for grievers. Dawn, you were gonna add something?
Well, when you brought up that about losing your parent when you're 2, and I lost my mom when she was 98 and I'm 72 recently, and I have friends that have lost their parents at an early age, so I keep feeling like I shouldn't be grieving. I had my mom for my whole life to 72, and my friends never had their mom, since they were little kids, so I feel like I don't even have the right to grieve.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think that can be common, and you have every right to grieve. And
I think I should feel gratitude and not grief, is what I keep struggling with, grateful to God for having my mom that long, but still sad that she's gone.
Yeah, it is. And like comparing, my grief isn't as bad as what their grief must be when somebody has a worse tragedy in their lives. So it doesn't help us to compare, although we do it, and it's natural to do that. But we are entitled to our grief. We own that and respect that as part of the process, whether it's a small grief, a big grief, whether your mom lived to 92 versus your friend's moms and parents lost parent earlier in their lives. All right, not every theory will fit for everybody, so I have a few of them. There's many more out there, so just take what fits. Right, this is an image that's out there online. Grief is like a bag that we carry. Some days it's a huge garbage bag. Some days it's more of a briefcase. Some days it's a purse or it's in your pocket. So that how much grief is with us varies by day. I know when Joe's sister died by suicide, that was a lot of grief for me and our family. And even different times of the day were different.
Yes.
I found nighttime, like, just would wake up and sob at night. I could get through the day, but just like would hit me when I would wake up during the night. So, that's when I felt the heaviness, or when I had permission to just let it go.
Yes.
So, different heaviness can be felt. All right. this got cut off. Has anybody seen this sculpture? It's in Switzerland. Rick is nodding his head. Elissa showed me this. She had some art classes in college. So, I'll read what I wrote there, or copied. It's 2012 bronze sculpture by a Romanian artist. Poignantly represents grief, loss, and the void within. So it's on Lake Geneva. In Switzerland, the figure is slumped, seated in a large hollow space, that emptiness that we can feel. I think having images of grief helps me so much, because it's hard to put words to it. It's an abstract thing, emotions are. All right, dual process model, this is another. This is kind of a current model that we go between things. We go between stressors. We have loss-oriented stressors and restoration-oriented parts of ourselves. Or trying to get the year on. I think this came out in the 90s, but it's really kind of the current thing that grief therapists use. Rick?
Are stressors here the same thing as triggers, basically? Or is it triggers things that touch you off?
Yeah. So part of you is dealing with loss.
Yeah.
And part of you is trying to keep going or working on keep going. Life is keeping going. So we live in a duality. So you can also think of it like, one hand is I'm going, I'm doing everything that's part of my life. I'm making the meals, I'm doing the laundry, and I'm working or going out. And the other part of me is grieving. And they're simultaneous. So the duality of two things at once. So you can think of it that way, or back and forth, like, okay, just oscillating. So grief is work. We're feeling the emotions. You need to drink water, Lori. Okay.
Swallowed wrong. I can get her water.
Okay.
I'm good. Sorry, it's getting it.
And I think it says up there, can you read it? Being distracted from your grief. I've been so grateful to have a job to go to. Even though my job is with people who are grieving, there's a lot of joy to where I am. But to have a distraction, to have a function, a purpose. So that can be part of coping too. When this was first explained to me, as part of an orientation I think that I had when I started my job, they talk about it like a line. Like, so you're walking down the line and you step on one side. Okay, I'm really feeling it right now, but okay, I'm fine again. And you keep going. So just because I thought, okay, yeah, I just go back and forth across this line some days. All right, this is another grief theorist. Her name is Lois Tonkin. Sorry, I couldn't get the words in the picture on the same slide. So, growing around grief. And it's another way of looking at grief. Again, not every model is going to work for everybody or be something that fits. So she was giving a workshop, and this young mother was there who had lost a child, and she said, I thought my grief would get smaller. But it didn't. And then she realized something else was happening. So society thinks too, it's going to get smaller, but it's actually that grief is the same, and our lives grow around it and adjust to it. So it's kind of a smaller piece of our lives, but it's still there. Bruce?
Yeah, there's another kind of grief that occurs to me. Is it used to be called, I don't know if it's still called, as complicated grief.
Mm-hmm.
So, the loss of a relationship, for example, where there's been a lot of mixed emotions about the relationship. And so I end up talking to a lot of folks who, for example, had really different feelings about their parents. Some positive, but a lot of negative feelings as well. And so when they move away from their parents or their parents die, it's hard for them to know what to do with the mixture of feelings.
So complicated grief. If you have a relationship where there's mixed feelings, maybe there's been strife or estrangement, or just it's not settled, your relationships with somebody, a parent or someone, what do you do with that? Sometimes there's guilt too with that. Yeah, and thank you for helping people through and talk through and think through and feel that. Bruce, appreciate it.
There probably should be another line there which shows the combination of the two. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The grief gets smaller and you get bigger.
So Dick said another line where the grief does feel like it gets smaller. I was thinking about this okay, so my first grandparent died when I was 10. I was pretty young. I don't really feel that grief. So for me, that grief is smaller. So again, not everything fits for each of us, and we can sort of take it. Tasha has a comment?
Yeah, well, I think it's not linear or as well. I think you may grow bigger around it, but then you see something that reminds you, right? And then the grief swells up again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not linear. Tasha's saying that you see something that reminds you.
Yeah.
And that, can be, it swells back up again. An anniversary of something or a holiday, leading up to a significant day, a song, going somewhere. Honestly, sometimes when I've watched people walk in here after a spouse has died, it's really hard. I think going places can be really hard as well. Places that you always went together, and everybody's walking, oh, hi, how are you? We might want to think about how we greet someone who we know is grieving. Because even though we say, how are you? It's just a way of saying hello. When you're grieving, it isn't, I would say. After Elissa, our daughter, was diagnosed with cancer. She's 29. She was diagnosed at 25. And I think one of the first places I went, and I was working, and a social worker greeted me at the building. She said, oh, hi, Gretchen, how are you? And I just well, that's a real question right now. It's not I'm fine anymore. Because I'm falling apart inside. And, but that's not an appropriate time to say that.
I can remember somebody saying that to me after my wife died, and it was sometime after. And I said, my response to it was, pretty good until you reminded me.
Yeah, I think you said that to me.
So I've since been very much on edge about what to say.
Yeah. So think about stabilize. So we want to help each other stabilize after a grief or a trauma. So just being present. Hi, nice to see you. I'm glad you're here. Let me give you a hug or something. Don't make people process anything. Is that okay to say that?
Just say, I care.
I care. Thanks.
Gretchen, I'd
Yep.
say, in general, not even if there's a situation that has happened, I think in general, just saying, hi, good to see you, is much, because it's hard sometimes to say, I'm not having a great day, and I don't really want to say that to that person who says, how are you? So I think just in general to rethink about how we greet people, which maybe is better to just say, hey, good to see you.
Yeah. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, good to see you. Are you going to add to that,
Yeah,
Tasha?
I would also just to kind of go off that as well. Just generally, I love to say the power of presence is greatly underrated.
The power of presence is greatly underrated. Yeah.
Just being present. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. just being present when when someone's hurting or grieving means so much.
Yeah, so whether you're sitting with someone or before a death or after a death, just being there means a lot to people. There's another drawing of this same model. So again, the circle is staying the same, but the pot's getting bigger, the plant is getting bigger, life is going onward, life hasn't stopped. So another way of looking at it, there's a couple more images of this online. Somebody said grief is not linear, so Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, like her book sort of made everybody think grief was linear. First you're going to feel this, then you're going to feel this, and then you're going to feel this. It's not orderly, it's many emotions and experiences, and you keep going back and forth. So, I wasn't sure. So this is an image. So that left side is kind of one of the lost and the hard parts. Denial, anger, fear, searching, disorganization, thinking can be really hard. And then the right side is more that restoration.
The right side is Congress right
Oh. Yeah. Oh. So, and the bouncing around and how it's you know, it's not one way, and it just, yeah, it's a mess sometimes when you're right in the thick of it. In my reading for getting ready to share this today, I read this and I thought, oh, I never knew that. Crying in the car is very common. Has anybody done that? I felt so relieved to read that. Again, when Elissa was going through her cancer treatments, I was working and I was fine getting in the car, going. As soon as I would park, I would just start crying. I would just cry for 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, great. Hopefully, you know, I recovered, but yeah, I didn't know that's common. So I guess we feel safe in our cars. So let it out. Any more thoughts before I go on?
Oh, crying, you know, my cousin, when she lost her mom, who's my godmother, she told me that, you know, just to kind of be present with her mom, she would take my godmother's ashes, put them in the car with her, buckle the seatbelt, play some of her favorite music, and just drive around and talk with her, you know, because she was sitting right there.
So that's a beautiful thing. So she took your godmother's ashes with her in the car and talked with her.
Yeah.
So having a way to sort of connect that continued bonds that was mentioned early on, finding a way. Yes, Jerry.
There's different ways of reaching out that people don't even know that they're doing it. I was one time and visited with Dick, and he was in hospice at a hospice home. And I was coming home and I thought, oh, I'm gonna stop at McDonald's to get something to eat because I haven't eaten yet. So I was getting in line with all the other cars, and the car in front of me was a van, and there were lots of children in there, I could tell and stuff. And the line moved up, but she didn't move up. And I thought, what was that? Why isn't she moving? And I just sat there and waited, and I was not feeling happy or anything. All of a sudden, she starts going. And then she went up to the window and ordered and got her food, and then it was my turn. And I went up there, and the lady said, the lady in front of you just paid for your food. You know, and I thought, how did she know that I just needed this right now? You know, it wasn't a matter of waiting, but it was a matter of those grief feelings inside of me.
Yeah.
And she didn't know that either, you know.
Beautiful.
But she just reached out.
Yeah, somebody
so
paying for.
Yeah, you never know when you're doing something that helps somebody else.
Yeah, beautiful. And in the right moment, God's timing, the Spirit moved for that person
It's a God thing.
Support, yes. All right, kids and grief. I was at a mom's group, and there was a funeral director that came to talk to us. A room full of moms, we all had preschoolers. And so the takeaways for me from that talk were that to talk about death as normal
Yes.
in life. That leaf died, it's all brown and curled up because the season is over for it. So nature, dead insects, a bird on the road, or something got hit and has died, and just pointing out, it's died, it's not living anymore, and explaining death as normal in life. And pets, another opportunity for kids to learn, whether it's their pet or their friend's pet or somebody else, a normal part of life that something dies. Take to funerals. Provide opportunities for them to ask you questions. And funeral directors will open the lower half of the casket to show kids that the whole body is dressed, the whole body is there. So that can be an opportunity for grief, for understanding too. I remember thinking that. Where are Grandpa's legs? So, invite their questions about what's happening, the rituals. And so our kids have been to lots of funerals. I remember one of them was a baby, and doing their little baby talk, and while we're in the service, and I walked out, and my uncle says to me, "Oh, you didn't have to walk out, your child's voice." Elissa told me when there was a suicide at Hopkins High School, she didn't really know the person, but many of her friends did, and went to the service, and she came home and said, "Mom, some of those kids had never been to a funeral before." She said, "I've been to like 20 funerals, thanks to Joe's big family." They have learned about death. And so I remember we had a neighbor who died, and we took the kids. But the neighbor on the other side didn't bring her kids, and her kids were about 5 years older than mine. And I said, "Oh, where are your kids?" "Oh, I think they're too young." So take those opportunities that are neutral for kids, or your grandkids, or other little people. Books about death. There are children's books about death. If that's something to add to your library, as a parent or grandparent or special person in your life. Sorry, I don't have a resource list, but they're out there. And even older books. Kelly and I were in a mother-daughter book club, and we read this book together with a group of her classmates, and there was a death in it. And so we were discussing, and I really wanted to bring that up. Has anybody known someone who died? There was, I don't remember who died in the book now, but I just hesitated, and the moment passed. And it's really sad because like 2 weeks later, one of the dads died. And so it was a sudden heart attack death, and, very, very sad. And in hindsight then, I really wished I would have said something. So opportunities as they happen. And just naming emotions for kids, they're grieving lots of things. The end of the school year, all that stuff. All right. Coping. Okay, breathing. Breathing is great. The more you do it intentionally, the better you get at using it as a tool for regulating your emotions. So there's different systems. Again, find one that works for you. One I really like is a heart. So breathe in, draw half of the heart, and breathe out, draw the other half. So as Pastor Yolanda said, we grieve because we love. Or there's the finger, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Or count. It's good to breathe out longer than you breathe in for. So that 4, 7, 8, that's some kind of resetting breath. There's a lot of research about breathing too that's going on. That's when I use at nighttime to reset So I breathe in for 4, I hold for 7, and I breathe out for 8. Bruce, if you know what that's called. There's a name for it, but
It's a vagal nerve, reset.
so. Box breathing is another in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. An ice cube in your palm. I actually haven't tried this, but that's a self-regulation. So if you have somebody who can't regulate, or you can't get yourself to stop sobbing, try holding that ice cube in your hand. Or you're angry or something, another sort of reset or refocus.
The key
You have
with
to remind me of that, Joe. I'll remind you. All right. Move, be active. These are from this book, What's Your Grief? And I don't remember the year. It's full of lists. So if you're in a helping profession, or want to learn more about grief, I bought it to get ready for this, but I found it very helpful. This was a list in there. Be active, do something, take a walk. Invite a friend to take a walk who's grieving. Sometimes it's hard for people to get going. Get out of your home, get out with people. We are social beings. Let your emotions out, whether they're anger, sadness, and maybe just unscrew the cap a little bit, let some of the fizz out. That's one of our ways you can think about it, and then close it off. Self-care, connect with people, be creative, be educated, get involved. Okay. Again, more tools. Be productive. You don't have to, be involved in something, like doing something, a task, cleaning, laundry. So music does stimulate the vagus nerve, so humming to yourself can give you a little stimulation to that nerve that helps you feel better.
Again, your
Yep.
car, singing in your car
Singing in your car.
is
Yep.
a good thing.
Nobody hears you.
That's
think about
good
ways-
for us tone deaf people.
No, in your car it doesn't matter.
Car and shower, Dawn.
Car and shower doesn't
Let it
matter if
rip.
you're tone deaf.
Think about ways you can stay connected to people. Again, thinking about too those complicated relationships where somebody is not present but they're still living. Like, how are you staying connected to them? How do you do that for each other and your kids? Home visits to our congregation members, rituals, foods, making something somebody likes to eat. Jerry, I thought you were gonna say that you ordered Dick's favorite food at McDonald's. All right. Hospice and music therapy. This book by Ira Byock, he's a physician. He has another book out, but this was, I think, his first book. The 4 Things That Matter Most, and learning to say and do these things. Having thankfulness and gratitude, saying I love you. So this book is full of stories from his patients and his life. And I just opened it the other night, and there to a chapter where was a son, and his dad asked him to shave him. And he realized his dad was asking for touch.
Yes.
And so the last couple weeks of his dad's life, he shaved him every day. And it was a beautiful way to share touch and love. So simple things. I'm sorry, I forgive you. Whether you do it internally or with somebody, or you say, all is forgiven. Life was hard, it wasn't perfect. Finding ways to do that in our day-to-day, daily living. So when his mom died suddenly in a car accident, his brother said to him, well, why aren't you taking this harder? And he said, well, because I've done my things. I've said my everything. I'm at peace with my relationship with her, because he had been doing this all along.
Gretchen?
Yeah.
I just say from other people, well, just that the importance of saying I'm sorry it is important, but very often when we want to say I'm sorry, thank you is a lot better. You know, like somebody is caring for you or something. Instead of saying I'm sorry you had to take this trouble to come and visit me, or I'm sorry that this happened, thank you for coming and visit me. It is good for both people. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick.
Yeah.
Those are hard ones. So I've used Ira Bayek's those messages in my hospice work, and I've grouped my songs into groupings of songs that say these things. So I'm bringing that message through music, and that can be another way to shared conversation, making memories, making a legacy list of songs. In hospice, they have mandated grief support. So, and it goes for 13 months. And there's a risk evaluation done by the hospice team of how much support somebody needs or may need. So they're looking at some of those things like, are there other stressors in their lives? Are there multiple deaths? Have they been a caregiver for a long time? Are there kids in the home? So they would be assessed more at a moderate risk, and they're gonna get a phone call from the grief counselor. If somebody's assessed at low risk, they still can talk to the grief counselor, they get a mailing, but everybody is welcome to reach out. So if you have been in a hospice situation and you want that extra support, and then high risk, they're probably looking at more if there's suicide risks involved for people.
Gretchen?
Yep.
I don't know if anybody else in this room has experienced it, but I was present one time when you were visiting someone grieving, anticipating death, and you used the music, and it was a beautiful experience.
Thank you, Norm. Yes.
I've also experienced that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you it's an honor to be part of that and that time. And music is very special and another path to our hearts and our lives. And so here's again that we all experience hardship, stress, and emotion differently. There is no one right way to grieve, no standard timeline, many, many ways that we cope. Time for my song?
Yes, we did.
All right, this is, I'm sorry, my spring allergies. I think. You are welcome to sing. This is from Sesame Street.
Yes.
The refrain.
Should we bang stuff or not?
It's what?
Should we bang stuff or not?
Oh, yes, we were gonna, yeah, I didn't know if we would have time, but yes, you can play your percussion instruments. I don't know about you, Bonnie. I was gonna, those images of grief, sometimes like pairing them with sound to really experience them. It's called It's in Every One of Us. So grief is an internal work we do and feel, but we have that within ourselves to be wise. It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us, by and by. It's in every So there's a website, it's great, called What's Your Grief? It's the people that wrote this book of lists. So many resources for professionals, for someone who's grieving, so that is one direction I would send you to. I know Anderson Cooper has a podcast about grief, and he does interviews. I've listened to a few books. Ambiguous Loss, What's Your Grief? The 4 Things That Matter Most. Ted Bowman, he's a local writer, Loss of Dreams. So that loss of the future when something happens. That's a very small one. The library has it too. I couldn't find my copy. so I went to the library, so it's there. Any last comments? Or thank you for being here.
We want to thank you. This was wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas, Gretchen, for how to deal with the prolonged grief of the Minnesota Vikings losing 4 Super Bowls? It kind of comes and goes for me all the time.
Yeah. Playing with your emotions.
Well, I think you just did part of it. You stated that.
I named it.
Disappointment.
Yeah, there you go.
But now we're cheering for the Wild and the Wolves.
Right.
Yeah.
I bought myself a Viking shirt that says always optimistic.
All right, thank you, everybody.
How about delusion?
I know it's a heavy topic. Remember, it's the National Day of Laughter, humor. So, find